Hey, what's up, cats and kittens, and shout out to all my cerebral lights. It is me, the Cerebral Diva, and I'm back with another episode of RealiTEA, and that's TEA because I give it to you scalding hot. So grab your cups, grab your saucers, gather around, and let's all partake in this libation of Only Cabo tea. But before you go another further, do yourself a favor, and while you're at it, do me a solid. Take a second to hit that subscribe button, and once you've done that, take another second to hit that tiny little bell so you can turn on your alerts, and that way you'll be kept in the loop. Okay, so let's dive right in and talk about tonight's episode. And we're not going to go over all the finite details. We're just going to talk about really sort of the pivotal moments that happened in tonight's episode. And there was a bunch of them. I felt bipolar because, I was sort of darting all over the place. One moment I was on Kamani's side. One moment I was on Emily's side. One moment I was on Agu's side. One moment I was like, to hell with all of them. So there was so much that happened. Now, we're going to start with them going out to dinner as they typically do. Now, if I were a cast member on this show, I would probably be fasting because every time they go to dinner, drama happens. So if I were Jermaine or Malaku, I would probably just fast for the rest of the season. So they go to dinner, and Kamani and Emily and Agu, this love triangle that they've developed here, they're at odds once again. Now, the problem as I see it is that Emily has no concept of boundaries. Like, she just has none. Tonight when they were at dinner, they were all sitting around the table. Agu was sitting next to Kamani because the two of them are clearly trying to get to know each other in a very real way. And Emily reaches across the table with her chopsticks and feeds him sushi. He takes a bite of her sushi, and she finishes the portion that he didn't eat. And so Kamani sort of side-eyes him like, are you serious right now? Did we not already have this conversation? Is this really what we're doing at dinner? So she sort of gives him that look. And Emily, I'll say this about Emily. I don't really think Emily is intentionally trying to antagonize Kamani because I just don't think she's that bold. And I don't think she wants the heat that comes along with it. I just think she's just clueless in a way that could probably cost her a couple of stitches, depending upon who she's dealing with. So Kamani, of course, is not feeling it. The two of them go back and forth, and Emily, typical Emily, gets white girl wasted. She goes out to the limousine, and after they go to the limousine, once again they go to a club and she gets drunk and starts biting and spitting off her press-on nails in the club. And then she gets too drunk, so she has to leave, and everyone else is having a good time. But because she's white girl wasted, everyone has to leave with her and make sure she's okay. So she gets in the back of the limousine. Now they have two cars, and this is where the show sometimes to me gets a little unbelievable, because if I were dating Agu, when we got into the limousine or to the SUV, he would be in the same SUV with me. There would be no him in the car with a girl that I already knows that he's had some sort of interaction with, in quotation marks with. So when I saw him get into the limousine with Emily, I'm like, this is about to go left. And that's exactly what it did. The situation went left, and his hands went down south. So they get in the back of the limousine, and Bianca's in the back with Emily, and she's talking about how she doesn't have enough space. So Agu agrees to go and sit in the back with Emily. Now, my whole thing is Bianca is like 1/3 the size of Agu. So how is Agu going to the back with Emily suddenly going to create more space for Bianca? So to me, that just seemed like a situation that was actually facilitated by the producers. It didn't seem like something people would do in real life. So he gets back there. She puts her head in his lap, and then we see him blatantly like about to fondle her. And to me, I felt like it was kind of disgusting on Agu's part, because this is pretty much what Demario from The Bachelorette is in trouble for. This is what Bill Cosby is on trial for. Like, when a woman is in that state, you don't do anything. You don't make sexual advances because she's not in her right frame of mind. And so I just didn't think it was a good look for him to do what he was doing, but that's a whole other story. So after they get out of the limousine, Larry and Bianca are both saying to Agu how he's wrong for that and how he needs to confess to Kamani. And I'm thinking to myself, he's a grown man. Emily's a grown woman. He's not married to Kamani. You know, they're not in a relationship. She's not kissing him or, you know, having any sort of physical interaction with him. Why is he obligated to tell her anything? You know, but Larry and Bianca are, and this is, hold on one second. We're going to pause for an intervention. Bianca, come here. Come closer. Yes, I need you to have a seat. This is going to be really, really hard. This is going to be tough, and this is going to hurt me a lot more than it's going to hurt you. And the reason I'm giving you this intervention is because I feel like since you're so involved in Kamani and Agu's relationship, I feel like we need to tell you about your own relationship. You know, people are looking at you like you're crazy too. Because I don't know if you know this, but Larry's gay. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, because, you know, I'm watching the show and I'm thinking to myself, she's really involved in telling Kamani about Agu and his shortcomings and his deficiencies, and meanwhile the whole world is watching their TV, sitting at home saying Larry's gay and this is who you're pursuing on TV. To me, she looks the craziest out of anyone on the cast, but that, once again, is a whole other video. So Larry and Bianca are both pressuring Agu to go to Kamani and tell her what happens. And so ultimately, I think it's the following day, they go to the beach, and Bianca sits in between Agu and Kamani, and she's like, you need to tell her. So feeling pressured, Agu pulls her aside, and he basically tells her that he upskirted Emily. And Kamani was pissed. And I think she had a right to be pissed. And part of the reason I feel like she doesn't have a right to be pissed is because, like, see, this is the problem with Kamani. I'm going to give everybody some tough love tonight. Part of the problem with Kamani has been drinking her own Kool-Aid. And in her mind, she sees herself as a 10 and she sees Emily as a negative 10. So in her mind, her and Emily are not even in the same league. There's no way a man who's attracted to her should be attracted to Emily. But what she doesn't know is that men don't care. And so it doesn't matter how sophisticated, how chic, how refined you are. Yeah, sometimes men will see you as the wifey type, but that's not necessarily what he's looking for in that moment. What he's looking for is a warm space to park his man meat. And if Emily is going to provide him with that, he's going to go for that. And if you want to prevent that, then you might want to be a little bit more amorous in that particular situation. And because she's not, and because he's under the influence and he's inebriated, he's doing what men do. So it's like, I understand her frustration, but I also understand Agu's frustration. And believe it or not, I also understand Emily's. But when it comes to Emily, I really hope that Emily is watching the show from rehab. You know, like, when I watched the show, it was funny at first when the show first started airing. It was kind of, you know, it was just, you know, watching her get white girl wasted. But now to me, it's become problematic to the point where, you know, I'm almost like on the verge of asking to do an intervention for her, because she is seriously having, you know, when you're drinking to the point that you're blacking out, imagine what could happen to her if there weren't cameras around. Imagine what could happen to her if she wasn't amongst a group of friends. Like, there's no, you know, she can wind up on X-Tube somewhere, you know, just, I don't even want to imagine what could happen to her. But I'm just saying, if she gets drunk to this degree on a regular basis, I hope she's getting some help, and I hope that she's seeing herself on this show and really having an epiphany in terms of her sobriety and wanting to get that worked out. So anyway, after Agu confesses to Kamani about, you know, upskirting Emily, you know, she basically has a breakdown, you know, and she's, you know, talking about how she feels embarrassed and how she feels humiliated. And I don't really feel she has a reason to be humiliated. Like, if she would have slept with him, if she would have, you know, done the dirty deed with him, I could see her feeling embarrassed. But because she held her ground and she didn't move too fast, I don't think she has any reason to be embarrassed. I think that she actually should hold her head up, because she took her time. And I wish more women were smart enough to do that, because if you give a man enough time the true man will show up and not his representative. And I think that that's exactly what happened tonight. You know, he was able to play the good guy for so long, and because Kamani, you know, because a man's only going to be able to play that role a week, 2 weeks maybe, if he's really good at it. But when you're in that house, when you're in that sort of incubator, that controlled environment, you're going to get the accelerated view of who a person is. And so it didn't take very long for the true Agu to show up. And because she waited, she wasn't really, I don't feel like she was really tarnished in any way, shape, or form. So anyhow, you guys, that's pretty much all that happened. I don't know. I really hope that Kamani just walks away from it, because, you know, I don't think Agu is really, I just don't think he's boyfriend material. You know, I think that he's just that type of guy who's really sort of, you know, feeling himself and you know, a megalomaniac or egomaniac, I should say. And I don't think that he's really the type of person that you want to establish a relationship with. Not yet, anyway. Catch him at 45. Catch him at 50. That's about the time men mature. So anyhow, you guys, that's it for this review of Invite Only Cabo. And that concludes this episode. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, and please share if you feel so inclined. Remember to follow me across all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. Also remember, it is better to be pissed off than it is to be pissed on. And as always, in closing, people, remember to live better, love harder, and think smarter. It is me, the Cerebral Diva. I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day. And as always, thank you for listening.